Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Fresh Off the Boat. This is our new podcast series, not so new anymore, with having done 10 earlier this last week. And today our guest is Saloni Dheer. She is a student I had worked with in 2013,
15,
14. Yeah, 14, 15.
15.
Yeah, and then she's now graduated from Claremont McKenna College in California. We did a webinar last night, so it was great to see you there. Uh, how are how would you describe your early days at Claremont and settling in to a new environment coming from Gurgaon and Shriram School?
hmm Yeah, I think definitely, like they mentioned in today's webinar, Claremont's a really small town, so very different from, having grown up in Delhi with all the hustle bustle and so many people all around. But it's definitely a small city and college town. But I think the college environment was very similar to Shriram because very tight-knit community. Everyone cares a lot about each other and a lot of one-on-one interactions, whether it's mentor groups or orientation leaders or freshman week we had a trip. It's the war trip that they basically take everyone on an orientation adventure, so we got to go to a camping trip and really make friends and still friends, very close friends with a lot of people who I met on that very first trip. So I think they make a lot of effort to make sure you feel at home. Even for international students, there's like a separate orientation that the international place organizes. So I think in terms of settling down, they do an amazing job of it. In terms of overall, the culture of Claremont, it is definitely a small town, but it's like a community. So you get really used to the village and the restaurants there, as well as all the other four colleges. So in that sense, it's definitely a very strong community.
Right. So when you were kind of all settled in, and it seemed
hmm
like a very warm and welcoming place, and there seems to be some design in making sure that you settle in. Once all of
hmm
that was done, and you got into your academics, was it really competitive? And what was the rigor?
hmm
Expectations? Did it match up to,
Yeah.
I've always known you to be a very studious and intelligent person. So did it match up to your expectations?
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of classes, like very, very exciting work, a lot of research, a lot of creative thinking outside of the box, not your usual like we're used to in the Indian system where you just study for the exam and it's all well and good. A lot of papers, interesting sort of research articles and readings for every class almost that I took. I was pretty focused in the sense that I knew I wanted to do psychology, so I dove right in. But there was enough people who, came undecided or came exploring classes in their freshman year. Um, I, on the other hand, decided to take some senior level classes in my freshman year, which was interesting because I was the only freshman in that class. But the professors were super helpful, and there was like team projects. So definitely learned a lot from seniors and juniors in the class. So I think
But would you
if
do
you
that
want
again?
if you want to challenge yourself, there's a lot of opportunities to do
Okay.
that at all the Claremont colleges, and I really sort of liked that experience because it gave me a good insight into organizational psychology, which is what I ended up doing my thesis with that professor who I took that class with. So I think I would do it again in a second.
That's great. That's great. Very often students overload themselves with advanced placement exams before going to college and all kinds of preparation. Do you think all of this
Mhm.
is essential, or it's just okay, just sink in into the environment and choose to take on rigor as you go?
Yeah, I think it completely depends on you. Like I know enough people who, took things as they came. It just depends on, what you want to make of it. So I wanted to study abroad for the whole year, which is why I needed to sort of overload, take classes ahead of time and do that. But if you want to spend, 4 years is more than enough to take all the classes you need to take to graduate, plus extra classes that, you're interested and excited about. So I think in terms of time, there's completely, a lot of time to take your time to decide. And in terms of advanced placements and stuff, I think really like they don't expect you to do it. If you've done it, some colleges reward you for it in terms of, like credits. You maybe don't have to take one introductory class, but I really don't think it's essential. And especially with all that's going on when you're applying, I don't think, you have to do like APs and four subject tests and all of that stuff. Like they can see through it, considering the fact that they've even canceled SATs for the UCs this year. I think it's really like the testing is only a small part of it.
Well said. If you talk a little bit more about psychology, how did your interest within psychology change over a period of time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. CMC has all sorts of, various sub departments within the psychology department. So you can take, neuro psychology, you can take cognitive psychology, social psychology, organizational. So I think, like I mentioned, this first class I took in organizational psychology, which wasn't even an intro level course. It was a higher level course, but I found it really interesting. And then I took, a few more courses in leadership as well as, just human resources kind of angle to research. And I think over time, you just take more specific classes in the area that you're, most interested in. The major requires you to take like one of each anyway. So it's not like you can just, decide on day one. You have to take a few different introductory level courses, and then you can, pick whichever you're most interested in. I really found it interesting to study organizational psychology, and some of my internships were also overlapping in that area. So I think over time, you just develop an interest in one of them. And I ended up doing my thesis and pursuing sort of the leadership studies and org psych path.
So, with the Kravis Leadership Center at Claremont and many such resources available at the
Mm-hmm.
Claremont colleges in general,
Yeah.
uh, what is so unique about studying leadership? Don't you think leadership is a practice and not a study, or is it a
Mm-hmm.
combination?
Yeah, I think the way CMC really teaches and focuses on leadership, it is, very practical. They're not, giving you books to read on leadership. It's super practical. So one of the leadership courses I took, which has been one of my most favorite classes at CMC, with Professor Conger, was a class where we actually did Harvard case studies and studied, actual leadership cases and how things turned out in those situations, wrote papers on them, did projects, wrote like a self analysis of our life's leadership journey. So I think it's very practical and applicable to our own lives as well as to, just the people that we're studying about. So that combined with actual research at these research institutes, they're really generous in terms of, research grants, stipends if you want to research over the summer, or if you want to just, even do your thesis. I won an award for my just for doing the research for my thesis proposal. So I actually got funding for my undergraduate thesis, which is unheard of at undergraduate colleges. So I think KLI and all of those institutes really, support and encourage people who want to do practical research, and not just, read books and be taught leadership. They really focus on, taking leadership roles in organizations as well as applying what you learn. So that's something I really like.
That's great. So, if you look at your current role, and how do you pronounce the company you're working with, Schaffer and Combs?
Schaefer
Schaefer
and
and
Combs,
Combs.
yeah.
Okay, so and it seems
Mm-hmm.
like an interesting impact consulting, leadership training sort of organization. Do you think a
Mm-hmm.
lot to do with what you studied at CMC ended up being applied at the job that you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of being applied, I think very few people actually get to say that they can apply what they learned in college. So I'm excited that I get to do that pretty much on a daily basis. So I interned at Egon Zender after graduating, and then found this role. Both of them are executive search companies and consulting. So Schaefer and Combs actually does do both strategy consulting as well as executive search. And so I'm on the search teams for a lot of, CEO searches, COO searches. C-level searches pretty much. So it's really interesting to see and talk to those people for interviews, as well as getting to know their experiences as leaders, and just understanding their journeys as we evaluate them for certain positions. So I think it's really interesting and combines a lot of what I learned as a psych major, as well as after studying leadership.
What do you think are the three traits of leaders you're looking for it at the C level for clients?
I think it really depends on the role. So we were doing, a CEO search for which they really wanted like a strong fundraiser, wanted, someone who's able to work in international development or international settings. Just depends on the organization, honestly, and the size of the organization. We have all sorts of clients, so it's hard to say like one, two, three, but really depends on what they're looking for, and there's just depends on the role as well as
Okay, so let me flip the question then. What do you
the
think are
organization.
your three
Yeah,
leadership top traits? Like, what do you think stands out for you, and what do you sort of uh,
I
aspire
think
for?
Yeah, I think definitely like I love working with people. So I'm definitely more of a team person and a people person rather than, doing all the work on my own and taking that. I think I love working with people in teams. Other than that, I think definitely like good communication skills, as well as, just working hard and that perseverance and, not wanting to give up easily.
Okay, switching gears now. I think more about the current situation of jobs
Yeah.
in the US and the fact that you
Hmm.
did psychology. And I'm not sure how much math and stats you had in your curriculum, but did you qualify for a STEM major,
Hmm.
or is
Yeah.
it something that doesn't work like
Hmm.
that?
So in Yeah, so in my junior year, we CMC and a few of the other Claremont colleges as well made psychology and economics STEM majors. So they do qualify as STEM. They did change the curriculum to add in more research methods, more stats. I wouldn't say maths, but I mean there are maths requirements. But for the major itself, there's more statistics, methods, as well as we have to do a thesis at CMC to graduate. So they definitely made it a more quantitative major in order for it to qualify as STEM. And so now I have 3 years of STEM, during which you can, obviously apply for the H-1B as well. But it is a STEM major.
Great. And as far as job search and networking, it's pretty much on the student. No college claims
Hmm.
that they can sort of offer you that. But what are the resources you used and sort of
Hmm.
was worked out for you?
Yeah. So I think obviously, yeah, no college can guarantee that you'd get a job, especially in this kind of situation with millions of people unemployed now. It's really becoming harder and harder. I'd agree, but CMC has a great resource, the Soul Center. They have, anytime you want to show someone your resume or a cover letter, practice case interviews, you can do that there. So they are really encouraging and helpful. They also have a lot of fellowships. I believe this year for the people graduating in 2020, they have a fellowship where people can really do whatever they choose to do in the time that they actually find a full-time job, and CMC will fund, their basic sort of living costs and costs that they incur. Not really a salary, but like a stipend. So I think they're really supportive, and obviously CMC being so close knit has a great network. So a lot of people I know actually, just reached out to someone they met at the at or met at a conference, through a professor, and just reached out to them. Actually ended up getting jobs or at least interviews. So I think having that tight knit network is really helpful. I myself have spoken to a lot of CMC alums during my job search in terms of what works. Like you said, it's really on you. There's obviously a lot of rejections involved, a lot of interviews, a lot of preparation, but it's possible for sure. Like there's a lot of companies that are still, open to hiring internationals and people who studied at good colleges. So I definitely not, lose hope there.
Great, great. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about how we have to reimagine our work life. We are already doing that in some sense. The last
Hmm.
60 odd days, the entire world is going through this pandemic and sort of
Yeah.
just kind of figuring things out. What do you think higher education institutions have as a challenge, and what do they really do well, which could be adapted pretty quickly in this changing scenario where students need to learn and colleges are still grappling to figure out how to get gatherings and in-person classes in place? Any things that you've seen in the
Yeah.
corporate world which can be applied in higher ed?
I think so far, like you said, for the past 2 months, we've also been working from home in San Francisco, and we've been, sheltered in place. So pretty much been on Zoom and all of the Zoom features everyone's figured out with the whiteboards and drawings and whatnot. And I believe from people I'm still in touch with at CMC, that CMC is also, gone virtual using Zoom classes. And what's good at least is that people have that rapport with their professors, so they can reach out to them if they don't understand something or don't want to aren't able to attend a certain class because of time zones or whatever. So I think that's at least one good thing. In terms of what can be applied, I think definitely you can't really compare off-campus college experience to an on-campus one. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that they're able to open in the fall and do real life college again. Because I don't know, I just feel bad for people who weren't able to have a commencement ceremony and may not be able to join and go on a trip next fall. So I really hope this settles down soon.
Yeah, so what is the message you'd have for, say, the graduating class or even the high school graduating seniors who are supposed to kind of be making their packing lists and getting all excited to go to
Yeah.
college?
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a really interesting time to be going to college as well as graduating. In terms of, advice, I think just for people who've just graduated, like connect with your networks. I've seen in the past like few months, even people being laid off and like posting on LinkedIn, um, commenting on, each other's posts, looking for jobs, and they've actually managed to find new jobs within 60 days. So it's really like all about who you reach out to. Don't be afraid to like ask anyone, whether they're an alum or just someone you want to talk to. People reach out to me all the time asking about like something about CMC or visas or work authorization, and like I'm happy to help. So I think definitely reach out to people, people who've been through it, know a lot about the process. So definitely would recommend doing that. And then for people who are applying, obviously they have you guys to help them. So that's good.
Yeah, so on that note,
Actually,
actually, I wanted to ask you this question. I know we
yeah,
had a super fun time working together and with the
yeah.
rest of the team too. What are your memories about, Edbrand and also the people?
Yeah, I think I had a chance to work with you and Ritu, and I believe Julia was there at that time, briefly with Gotham. So I think it was really interesting to kind of brainstorm ideas for essays as well as, college lists and all of that, and really appreciated, your support with my, decision to do ED to CMC. And I guess all of it seems a bit of a blur right now, but
Right.
it was
So, so
definitely
definitely
interesting.
CMC did work out for you, and I'm so proud of just being spending some time with you this morning here in India. But thank you, Saloni, for all the good things that you do and keep spreading joy in the world.
Yeah.
And I think we'd love to know more about the social impact work your organization does at another forum. We'll be organizing
Hmm.
webinars, and I'll invite you on those sessions. It could be two people in a panel with sort of some moderated questions and questions from the
Yeah.
audience. So looking forward to sessions in the near future.
Yeah.
Have a good
Happy to
night,
do that.
and yes,
You as well.
thank you.
Thanks so much.